Well, it looks like Avatar 3 is shaping up to be the darkest film in James Cameron's $5.2 billion franchise, based on some recent comments. And honestly, it makes me think Jake Sully might not make it out alive. Plus, there's an awesome moment in Avatar, Fire and Ash, that will definitely be worth the 3-year wait, so stick around until the end of the video for that. But first, let's dive into what might happen to Sully. With the announcement of James Cameron's latest Avatar sequel title, new theories are popping up to make sense of the director's mysterious take on its meaning. Avatar, Fire and Ash, which is set to drop in December 2025, suggests a fresh direction for the long-running franchise as Jake Sully and Ty keep fighting against Miles Quaritch. Cameron's excited sneak peek gives a strong hint about the upcoming story arc in this third installment of the Avatar series. In a chat with Rotten Tomatoes, Cameron elaborated on the thematic elements of Avatar, Fire and Ash, saying, "Well, if you think about what is fire, fire can represent hatred, violence, trauma, power, possible misuse of power. Yeah, there's a lot of thematic stuff. What does Ash represent? In my mind, in this film, it represents the aftermath of all of that energy, which is grief and having to live with what you've done." Cameron explained that fire can stand for a lot of heavy stuff like hatred, violence, trauma, and even how power can be abused. He thinks Ash represents what comes after all that chaos, like grief and having to deal with what you've done. He mentioned that this movie digs a lot deeper into the characters and really explores the emotional aspect of their actions, which could test their relationships. He also teased that the film will be both surprising and give fans what they want. So, it sounds like he's aiming for some emotional depth alongside the action. However, some fans are still worried because Cameron has a tendency to rely on cliches and predictable storylines. Since Avatar, Fire and Ash is set to be the darkest installment yet, Cameron hopes to change that perception. Cameron also mentioned that the film will be simultaneously unexpected and also what you crave. These insights hint at a much-needed emotional payoff following the action-packed prequels. Still, fans remain anxious about Cameron's history of cliches and predictability. With Avatar, Fire and Ash poised to be the darkest film in the franchise, the director aims to address this public criticism head-on. James Cameron's explanation of the Avatar 3 title hints that the sequel will dive into a much darker story. In the first two movies, the Nausicaa and humans represent clear-cut good and evil, with the Nausicaa being the peaceful protectors of nature and the humans embodying the dangers of industrialization and military might. However, Avatar, Fire and Ash plans to shake things up by introducing a new Nausicaa tribe that complicates this good versus evil dynamic. Cameron's mention of hatred suggests the film will explore how such feelings can develop within Nausicaa culture, leading to more conflict for Jake Sully and Ty. If this hatred escalates into a war between Nausicaa tribes, it raises questions about where each character stands and whether it could tear their family apart. Cameron's focus on grief and emotional consequences also ties back to the previous film, Avatar, The Way of Water. At the end of that movie, Jake and Ty's eldest son, Needham, dies in battle, and we don't see how the family processes that loss. Avatar, Fire and Ash seems set to explore the impact of Needham's death on their family and how Jake and Ty cope with this tragedy. James Cameron's comments about Avatar 3 hint that we might see some big character deaths coming up. The whole Avatar franchise really digs into themes of death and loss. In the first two movies, these themes are pretty much everywhere. Ty loses her father at the end of the first film, and Jake gets involved with the RDA because his twin brother died. You also see other characters grappling with personal loss, like Jake dealing with losing his ability to walk, Kiri and Spider coping with losing a parent, and even Miles Quaritch coming back after dying. Death and loss are common themes in Cameron's work, with movies like Terminator and Titanic being prime examples. He often explores these themes through the clash of technology and nature, raising moral questions about human progress while focusing on individual emotional journeys. With Avatar, Fire and Ash, Cameron has a chance to explore these ideas in fresh ways. What would it look like if a high-tech military teamed up with a spiritually connected indigenous tribe? Would that shake up Jake and Ty's efforts to protect Pandora's wildlife? And how did their experiences with death and loss impact their ability to stay focused on their goals. With Avatar 3 being the darkest film yet, it makes the upcoming Avatar 4 and 5 even more crucial to the overall story. James Cameron and the production team are already planning ahead, having shot Avatar 2 and 3 at the same time and even starting on parts of 4. This approach is similar to what Peter Jackson did with the Lord of the Rings trilogy, allowing Cameron to weave a bigger narrative across multiple films without falling into the trap of generic filmmaking. Cameron's comments about Avatar, Fire and Ash show that he's really in tune with what audiences want. He acknowledges his reputation as a tech-focused filmmaker while hinting that he's taking a more layered approach to the usual blockbuster formula. If this next sequel is going to be the darkest yet, then the fourth and fifth films are likely to build on these ambitious themes. Cameron has already mentioned a time jump in Avatar 4, suggesting that Jake and Ty's kids might become a major focus in the upcoming sequels. Anyway, back to Avatar, Fire and Ash. While this sequel has a lot of storylines to revisit, it really needs to address one big setup from Avatar, the Way of Water. It's easy to lose track of everything going on in the franchise. You've got Jake Sully's journey, the story of his kids, and Ty's feud with Spider, Spider's connection to his dad Miles Quaritch, and Jake's battle with Quaritch, all while dealing with the main conflict of humanity invading Pandora. By the end of that film, Lo'ak has become independent by going against his parents. While Needham's death was super tragic, Lo'ak's decision to help Pakan and the Tuluan, despite defying his dad and the Metsina, ended up saving a ton of lives. Pakan, the outcast Tuluan, stepped up and took out the RDA's ship, helping the Metsina win a temporary victory after suffering heavy losses earlier. All the Tuluan might team up with the Nausicaa in battle for Avatar 3. Pakan's choice could really change how the Tuluan operate in the sequel. Even though the title Avatar, Fire and Ash hints that the focus will be on the Fire Nausicaa, the movie also needs to wrap up Pakan's storyline. In The Way of Water, we learned that the Tuluan made a pact of nonviolence, and Pakan got exiled for breaking it, even though he was just acting in self-defense while his family was being attacked. His decision to go against that nonviolence pact ended up saving the day in the last film, helping the Metsina win the battle. Pakan's aggressive move showed that not fighting back was a losing strategy. While Jake Sully's clan benefited from Pakan's help, he also protected his own community. The RDA was backing the hunters who mercilessly killed Tuluan, so Pakan's attack highlighted that their nonviolent approach wasn't working. This sets up a great opportunity for the Tuluan to learn from Pakan's actions and fully fight back against the RDA, joining the Nausicaa in battle. Avatar 3 really needs to keep Pakan's story in mind for this moment, or else all that build-up will feel wasted. The Tuluan fighting back in Avatar 3 is super important for Pakan's story. While seeing the Tuluan join the Nausicaa in battle would be a powerful moment, it's not just about the spectacle. Pakan still needs some recognition and justice. He didn't do anything wrong, yet the other Tuluans still shun him. By the end of Avatar, The Way of Water, his storyline naturally leads to a conclusion where his community acknowledges that he was right all along, but that hasn't happened yet. So, Avatar, Fire and Ash really needs to focus on wrapping up Pakan's unfinished character arc from The Way of Water. Let me know what you think about that in the comment section. Subscribe to the channel to get updated regularly with the latest updates. See you!